Hey everybody, James W. Falcon right back at you with yet another segment, another video post in the series that I'm doing on racial injustice in America. And on this particular segment, I want to delve more into the protest of Colin Kaepernick, him taking a knee during the Star Spangled Banner at football games, and why that's significant as it relates to African Americans, the mistreatment of African Americans and persons of African descent here in America, and police brutality. I just happened to be browsing across the internet and I came across an article with an online newsletter called The Week, and it's dated October 5th, 2017. And the title is America's Forgotten Massacres. And it goes on to talk about several things that somehow have been conveniently forgotten as part of American history. Now, I want to preference my going into these articles by saying this and saying it emphatically. This this series is not my attempt to incite, but it is my attempt to unite. I'm talking about some of the ugly pieces in history because I don't believe most of America understand what the situation is for African Americans. And what I want to do is to bring some of the pieces of the underbelly of this monster to bear. Because when you understand these pieces, there'll be more people that will want to side with Colin Kaepernick, more people that should want to join the cause, more people that should have sympathy for the plight. I get it. Your ball game is being interrupted. But when I get finished reading through some of these articles, you'll see that the lives of many family members were disrupted in the worst possible ways, as has been the lives of many people of African descent in this country. So it's much more than just an inconvenience to these families and to us as a people. It's been a lifestyle and a living situation under which terror had been inflicted and continues to be in various shapes, forms, and fashions. But quickly, in the time that I have, the first one that's mentioned here is the 1917 massacres. It actually doesn't give it an actual title, but basically what happened here was that it was an issue of a number of African Americans here in St. Louis, and you can find this other places on the internet, but they say the death toll was 100 or so African Americans who were descended upon by an angry white mob, and this was regarding labor and unions. And what's amazing here was that there was not a single person brought to justice. An angry white mob attacked a group of union workers, or workers rather, African American workers. And just reading it, the official death toll was 39 black deaths and 9 white, although police estimated a death toll closer to 100, according to the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. It also talked about a number of instances in which servicemen were accosted, were beaten, were assaulted, African Americans in returning back home from World War I. There's something called the Red Summer of 1919. It's important to make a note. And during this particular summer, there were tensions that were raising very highly because of some economic downturns. There was also some issues with other factors concerning labor, and there were a number of mass racial violent kinds of issues of whites attacking blacks in Chicago, in Washington, D.C., in Omaha, and in Knoxville. The Elaine race riot of 1919 in Elaine, Arkansas, something that took place where an angry posse of white men tried to break up a meeting of black sharecroppers attempting to form a union. Long story short, it says witnesses reported that, quote, Negroes were hunted and 250 shot down like beasts, end quote. That took place in Elaine, Arkansas in 1919. And then the one that a lot of African Americans have been talking about, especially here in the recent years, is the Tulsa race riot of 1921, also called the devastation of Black Wall Street by a lot of us as African Americans. And basically 35 square blocks in a very affluent, prosperous African American community known as Black Wall Street were decimated. Hundreds, if not thousands, of African Americans were forced out of their homes because their homes were burnt. And when they ran from their homes to avoid death and injury by fire, they were shot outside on their front porches and lawns by angry white mobsters. What makes this particular riot especially heinous is that they used planes to bomb the residents from the air. And what's especially gruesome here was that there were several white people that were charged but never convicted. I can go on and on. I think you get the point. In all of these cases, not a single white person was brought to justice. Not one. In one case, there were 39 arrests and convictions of African Americans. Not a single white person in the group. Now, if that doesn't prick your heart, if that doesn't spark you to thinking, guess what? Those were in the early 1900s. So play it forward to 2014, 2015, 2016, and 2017. The same patterns exist. Atrocities committed by whites against African Americans, and not a one is ever brought to trial. Friend, you can say what you want about this country, and while it does afford freedoms, while there is a hope of realization for a dream, it seems that for African Americans, that hope, that realization has been deferred. Please continue to join me in these video posts and go to my YouTube channel for some of the others, as I will post and then make sure that the information is available there. This has been James W. Falcon. Until the very next time I get a chance to be in front of you, think about what it means to be an American. Think about what it means to have rights under our Constitution and our flag. We should never, ever put a flag or a piece of paper before people unless that flag, unless that document supports the rights of that people. Take care.